Okay, right. Let's get to the point right away. Okay, generally I don't like making this kinds of video, but I don't have anything else to show you or tell you something exciting about my life, a boring life, you know. I don't really like showing off. You know, I got this game and I got this game for that and I got a good bargain and I don't know. But I'm going to do a pickups video, yes. So bear with me, okay? These are the games I got for during April. Actually, it was I didn't pay more than 50 or 60 bucks. By far the most expensive game was was this one. Attila, Total War. Yeah, I believe it's the most recent one. Well, if you except for the Warhammer, there's a Warhammer now, a Warhammer game in the Total War series, but that's a fantasy game. This is the last historically based strategy for in the Total War series. Yes, and this one cost 20 euros, which is may sound a lot, but actually I checked on Steam and it's I think 29, so I think it was a good price. Now all the rest are 5 and 10 bucks. I don't remember which. I think the cheapest one was this one, the only one I got for the PlayStation 2. It's Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, which I think is the best in the series for the PlayStation 2, or is it Metal Gear Solid 2? I don't know. I have no idea. Actually, I've never played Metal Gear Solid game before, so I don't know. I think this is a good one. I think this is I got this for three. It's used, so it's 3 euros. The other one that was not expensive. It's considering that it's 3 games in one. It's a collection of Need for Speed Collector series. So it's for the PC again. It contains games that I've played, not all of them. I've played just this one, Most Wanted. It has also and Underground. Need for Speed Underground and Most Wanted and Underground 2. This is the only game from the series that I haven't played, but there are games from 2008, 2000. It's nearly 10-year-old games, I think. I think Most Wanted is takes place in daytime, and the others are illegal street races during the night. So yeah, and I prefer this much more than the the old original Xbox series, because in the original Xbox, which I finally got an AV cable, and unfortunately my beloved Xbox, the original Xbox, is perfectly in order. So what I was saying, yeah, I prefer the NFS series on the PC because of the higher resolution. Because on the Xbox it's not so good. But yeah, now the other games are €5 each, I think, and so yeah, we have, again, it's a used one, but they are all in I'm sorry. Yeah, Alien vs Predator. I was saying that they're all used, but they're very good condition. Alien vs Predator. I've been meaning to play this for a long time, but yeah. And I see that it's a game for Windows. Games for Windows is a platform that doesn't exist, and I may have to patch some of these games in order to play them. Damn Microsoft, if they change their system all the time. Arma 2, which is a very realistic, maybe too realistic for some people, squad-based military simulator. I think the Arma 3 is the latest in this series, but Arma 2 is still holding its own. Then there are three strategy titles from the Total War series. This is the old Total War Rome. I have my I already had the standalone, but this one has the expansion with additional campaigns and troops. It's called Rome Total War Rome Total War Alexander, and yeah, it comes in 2 DVDs. There's just this sheet of instructions with a code. I was expecting something more, fascinating, like a booklet or a map, but it's okay. For $5, it's okay. But it's in good working order. This one is the only one that's sealed. Empire Total War, which actually this is the expansion. The expansion of the original game, which I don't have. I haven't played the Empire game, and but it's I found it for $4.50. I will definitely get it, and I also found another great expansion for the Empire Total War game, the Napoleon Wars, which is a fascinating period in the warfare simulation games. All this 18th century, 18th to 19th century warfare. It's all very exciting, because they have theaters of war both in Europe and in with Napoleonic Wars, and in America with the War of the Revolution between the British and the Americans. So this is an exciting one. You know, the last time I've played in a Total War game was the first Rome, of course, and I haven't played Total War Rome 2, which I hear is very impressive graphically, but it has some flaws in the department of artificial intelligence. But well, I'm getting it. Of course, I want to get all the Total War games. Perhaps not all the expansions, but you know, I have some of them on Steam, I think, but I want to have the physical copies because they are this is a series I want to have on physical discs. I really appreciate them. So yeah, and the last game is and probably the best of them all is Total War Shogun 2, which has great artwork, and it finally has a booklet. It's very nice, and the booklet as well. It's not so lavish and luxurious as the collector's edition, but yeah, it comes in 2 DVDs, and I think it's the best in the series. They have this is the pinnacle of the Total War games, at least for the hardcore fan base of this kind of strategic games, because it blends combat, you know, the battles, with diplomacy and politics. So it has a very nice balance. It also has cinematic some cinematic elements in the campaign, and it has a very balanced gameplay and lots of things to do, not just engage into battles. So yes, these are the games, and I think it was good for around $50. Yeah. So this is the first part where I'm gonna put this here. Okay. And now we're going to the retro stuff, because yeah, I may have picked up an Xbox One, but to tell you the truth, I haven't used it yet. I've just made sure that it's okay. I turn it on, boot it up, and made sure that everything is in order. I haven't installed any games yet. And before you jump on my throat and start saying things like, "Oh, you got a new Xbox One, how on earth have you not played it yet?" Oh, okay, I will get to it, but now we have to do some retro stuff, and it's not very exciting for the hardcore audience, because I'm sure all of you have one of these, you know. It's this is a must-have for every gamer, and a little background for these consoles. I got 3 consoles. It was about 2 weeks ago. I was on an appointment in Athens, and I got off the metro station, and near the Acropolis, and every Saturday and Sunday, it was Saturday before Easter, and there is a flea market there during weekends. Nowadays it's more of a there are many taverns and restaurants for the tourists, and all these knick-knack stores with mementos and souvenirs for the tourists. But there are still not as many as they used to be, but there are still some shops that sell old antiques, vinyl records, tapes, and so on. And some of them have old electronics. And if you have some cash, you can buy lots of stuff: old VHS recorders, televisions, record players, and all this kind of So, but the thing is that if you are a retro collector, I'm not a retro collector. I was just going to buy some. I was just interested in some basic stuff that you can find easily. So if you are a retro collector, then you have to go very early in the morning, because most of the shopkeepers know the regulars, and they and they put forward their good stuff very early in the morning. I mean, before sometimes before 8 o'clock. And for me, I have to get so early. I have to get up on 6 o'clock, and because it's a 1.5 hour drive to the nearest. It's a 3/4 drive to the nearest metro station, and then another half an hour to get to there, and so it's about roughly 2 hours to get downtown. So anyway, first of all, I got this. I got 3 consoles for a tenner each. So the Atari 2600, the Junior edition, which is by far in the best order. All of them work, albeit with their peculiarities and their little problems. With they need some fine tuning. The TV, sometimes they don't play. You have to push sometimes 3 and 4 times the reset button to get the game to show up correctly. But this is by far the most the better one in condition and in cleanliness. The other ones are a bit grimy and dirty, and they smell funny. Yeah, this one is okay, and the other one is also an Atari one, but not an original. It's a clone. Yeah, it's an Atari clone. It resembles the Black Edition, the Darth Vader style console. Boy, it smells like what's this thing you put in the closet in the winter to keep the insects from eating into the wool clothes. That's oh my god. Yeah, this one plays okay. It's more difficult to get this console to tune into the TV, and also the first joystick port is a little loose. I'm afraid it will cave in. And yeah, apart from this, it plays okay. But there are no insignia. There's no indication what company made this. It just says video game system, but with no other designation. So it's a no-name Atari clone. But it plays fine. Now the other one is perhaps more interesting because it's one of those late 1970s consoles. It's this one, and it was made by a company named Sounddick. Sounddick. It's a funny name. Sounddick. It's a video computer game. That's the name of the console. The video computer game by Sounddick. And from the looks of it, I thought it was a Pong console. And you know, there are still some things that are loose in there, you know. I hope there are not some crucial electronic parts, perhaps some plastic parts, but it plays fine. I mean, plays fine is something arguable. At least you know, the analog controllers are responsive, and they are kind of detachable. So I was surprised that this thing was working, and it's easy to find a channel to tune in the TV, but getting it to play is another story. It actually works with you know, there's a cartridge slot, and it actually takes it operates with cartridges. Oh, this is it's a weird. There's a whole series of these strange-looking consoles, and I haven't checked the wiki page. There's a wiki page dedicated to this obscure. There's a whole class of this kind of consoles. Not exactly Pong consoles, but cartridge-based ones. So they are around 1978 to 1982. This is the period where these consoles were manufactured, and I was fortunate enough to have some cartridges to play with this, because I have no idea what kinds of cartridges, where I would find cartridges for this archaic console. So fortunately it came the guy who sold me this had in the baggie some you know, six games for this console. They're all very rudimentary games, like they're resembling very much those of the Atari. There is a Alien Invader, which is a Space Invader clone. Basketball. They are all both 1 and 2 player games. Basketball. Math Logic, which is an educational puzzle. Very simple. Space Mission, which looks to be the more promising of them all, because it actually has some sort of campaign. It's more complicated than what it looks like from a first glance. Sea Battle. This is strictly for 2 players. It's a variation of Sea Battle, the tabletop game. Missile War, another variation of the classic arcade title. And yeah, so I got all of these games to work. They are in color. They play fine. And but the thing is, from all these games, I couldn't get this one to play well. I mean, there's something going on with the connections, or I don't know. The game boots up, it shows the picture, but it's all hazy. The image cannot be stabilized even if I fine-tune the channel with the remote control of the TV, but all the rest are playing fine. Of course, sometimes you have to push the cartridge a little harder, to play with the reset button several times for the image to be stabilized. And I also believe that I'm almost certain that all these games were supposed to come with with layouts for these buttons, because it's impossible to understand just by seeing the game. It's not a one button thing with like the Atari. There are 14 buttons. That's a little redundant. 14 buttons, and most of them are used for a numeric function. They are numeric keys, and but each game utilizes them in a different way. So I'm certain that these games came with different layouts. I'm sure that for some of them, if not all of them, I will find the pictures so I can print out these layouts. But yeah, I was fortunate enough that my $30 were spent in consoles that actually worked. And especially for this one, which is the oldest of them. So yeah, retro stuff for all you retro smitten guys. Yeah, and also with each Atari console, with the junior console, came this cartridge, the Combat. It's a classic. Yeah, it has perhaps the most. I think it's the cartridge that came bundled with the original 2600. It has tank pong, biplane and jet fighter. They are all 2-player games, which is they're fine. They are okay. And the other one, it's funny because it was torn. The original label was torn apart, and yeah, it's Moon Patrol. But actually, it plays okay. Moon Patrol is one of the the real classic games. It's primitive, but it's very addictive. So yes, there you have it. One original Atari 2600, one no-name Atari clone, and then another obscure late 1970s cartridge-based console, which thankfully works, not all the time, but if you are patient, well, this is typical for these old consoles. They need a little, tampering with, and of course, they came with the standard 9-volt, little power supply, and the classic 2600 controllers, which are I had forgotten. I haven't played with an Atari 2600 since I remember the date. It was 1987. It was the year that Greece won the European Cup in basketball. They beat we beat the old USSR in a tournament held here in Athens. It was it was crazy back then. It was, the USSR was the best team in the world. If you, with the exception, of course, of the professional NBA American team, which back then they weren't allowed to. They weren't allowed in the World Cups, but in Europe, the USSR was. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, and I remember because this summer a cousin of mine came to stay for a couple of weeks, and my father bought him an Atari. Actually, he bought him the Atari Junior, as a present. My mother was furious because she's a little reserved with money, and she was furious because the console back then cost the equivalent of perhaps 150 to 200 euros if you take into account the inflation that practically doubles the amount. Yeah, it was like buying an Xbox 360 or today. It was not cheap, and I remember it came with a cartridge which was a Spanish cartridge. It said 32 juegos games, 32 in one, and I remember that you put the cartridge onto the Atari, and you have to play with the on-off switch, and each time the game changed. But we didn't know that when we bought the console, and we hooked it up on the TV. the first game that was displayed on the screen was ski slalom, and that's it. And we turned it on and we turned it off and on, and it was that, and we went bananas, and we had to go back to the store, and the guy there showed us that you had to push the reset button to select serially to select the games. So there was tons of games. There was Dunk, there was Breakout, Basket, and many other games. But yeah, I hadn't played with a Atari 2600 for almost 30 years, since 1987. So yeah, another historic time for the Galacticus house. So yeah, that's it for now. I don't have anything earth-shattering and exciting to show you, just this stuff. And yeah, I'll see you soon.